land of wide open skies and untamed horizons. One signal cuts through the wind. You're tuned into Alberta Radio, across the prairies to the Rockies. Here's your host, Jason LaFace.
All right, folks, starting off the show is Ain't My First Rodeo from our MAiD brother, Joey Pringle, hailing from Alberta in Calgary. Let's go.
She said, I think I see how you think of me. You're anything but smooth. Safe to say you're no working Joe, but you're longer in the tooth. Mama told me careful what you settle down for. Nothing settled here, we're running back for more. Oh, I ought to know. Ain't my first rodeo. Thought I told myself so. This ain't no me, oh, my first rodeo. My heart races when you stand near, a bit conflicted and confused. I fell hard and you disappeared. Was it one wild ride with you? I won't hit the town, no way, no how, like I'm looking for a new old flame. This ain't no rookie on the sideshow, scared of being left alone again. First rodeo, I told myself so. This ain't no me, oh, my first rodeo. Life's an up and down ride, we gotta hold tight and know when it's time to let go. Ain't always fun and games, sparks turn into flames, and we're going up in smoke. Cause it ain't my first rodeo. I told myself so. This ain't no me, oh, my first rodeo. Back in the saddle, what we found was more like a rebound than a soulmate dream. What felt like magic with a Hollywood flair was fireworks stealing the scene. Life's an up and down ride, we gotta hold tight and know when it's time to let go. This ain't no me, oh, my first rodeo. Life's an up and down ride, we gotta hold tight and know when it's time to let go. Ain't always fun and games, sparks burn into flames, and with going up in slow. I know. Cause this ain't my first rodeo. I told myself so. This ain't no me, oh, my first rodeo.
All right, that is our friend Joey Pringle from Calgary, Alberta, one of our MAiD brothers who submitted Ain't My First Rodeo. So today we're going to put that as tune of the day because he was so generous to send us his cover and his information. It's a great track, by the way. So tune of the day today, Joey. There you go, brother. And we got some what I love about this show, where we're building up, is it's straight up all Alberta content. Yes, we'll talk about national Canadian issues that matter, but it's all Albertan, man. The music is all Albertans. I'm so thankful for you guys sending in tracks. So we're going to play a little bit of other Alberta music submitted from artists later. But we're going to talk about, let's start off on an introduction from the Premier. of Alberta. Let's see, I had to cue that up. I forgot to cue it up. Jay slacking today. Oh God, there it is. Here we go.
Parents want their kids to learn how to read, to write, to do math, to code, maybe even get a trade, maybe learn a language. They don't want them to become social justice woke warriors. And I think we've seen a lot of ideology in the classroom in recent years. Parents have had enough of it. And I think the kids have had enough of it. I hear from high school students who tell me, why do I have to write my essay in a certain way, otherwise my teacher will mark me down? That's not what schools are for. Schools are supposed to teach kids critical thinking. And that means you hear multiple sides of multiple issues, and you help the child get through to figure out what their own views are and what they think is the truth.
Absolutely. You know, I the reason why I moved back home to Alberta was because there was a call out to fight for her. You know, and living in Ontario, growing up in Ontario, like my parents left Alberta in 1980 when the first Trudeau crippled our energy sector. A lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of layoffs, you know. But Alberta fought back, and I never stepped foot back into the province until 2023. I was too focused and hyper-focused and trying to create a life out in Ontario. And with always, you know, I always thought about coming back home, but I don't know, man. It was just, the fight was there. And after, you know, hearing that Alberta was moving forward on changing policies that mattered to Albertans, which are soundfully, you know, just basically logic and common sense policies that should apply right across the board here in Canada. But, so I came home, and when I hear the Premier, you know, fighting for our kids, fighting for education, fighting for our healthcare system, putting common sense back into, you know, what needs to be done here, I think it's a great thing. And just to add to this, like, Alberta has a far more superior education, and you know, our system here is a lot more, I'd say, smarter in terms of the curriculum. I know that it was when I was younger, because when I left Alberta and went to Ontario, I skipped 2 grades. I won mathematical awards because of how our teachers here in Alberta taught me how to apply math and my own, you know, how I could understand it with the algorithm in my own head, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, everybody comprehends their own way. But when I went to Ontario, they were pulling me out of class trying to figure out, well, why is this kid so smart, right? And eventually I won a mathematics award in grade 1, and, you know, I skipped a couple grades throughout, and yeah, like, and I thank the Alberta curriculum for allowing me to pursue my education, even though that I had, you know, walked in the wrong direction and strayed off for a little bit in my life. I still came back to, you know, smartening up and changing my life for the better and finishing school and, you know, growing a family and stuff. So I really commend the Premier. I really love what she's doing. I love what the UCP is doing. There's so much improvement, and I like the fact that they're engaging with people who are creative. That is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life from any government. And that applies to me, you know, like, I have interest in, well, I want to run for mayor of Edmonton or become a politician to help our people, you know, regardless of what. It's at the end of the day, it's not about left, right, or center. It's about, are the people being fairly represented? Are the voices of the people being heard? Are we changing policies that are being applied to help our collective rather than resist against the collective, right? We got to make our lives better. We're the ones paying the bill. So when I look at how the UCP is moving along, and I think there's some great ideas there, and with independence on top of that, you know, I'm a strong supporter of the Alberta Independence, and that's what I want, just like every other Albertan that wants this. So if we position, you know, intellectual people that are willing to transition, when we transition to a new system, it helps. So if we can get people in now, like myself and others that I know, when the time comes for independence, you know, it's not going to happen overnight, guys. When we go there, when we get there, right? Like it's going to be. We still got a bit of time. We got a lot of work to do. There's going to be consultations. People got to meet, sit at the table. There's still quite a bit of work to do. But in the meantime, there's nothing wrong with getting our guys in and working it, trying to make the change, trying to do, start building the foundation for transition, and listen to what the people want. That's how we're going to get forward. So the Premier's leading, the UCP is leading the way in a way, because they've given the opportunity for the independence movement to move forward. Mind you, we have this court injunction, temporary stay in the process, but that'll, don't fret, folks. That's going to get, pretty much thrown out, because you cannot stop the process of democracy after legislation has passed it, after reviewing the Constitution and the Clarity Act and all this other stuff, right? Like, don't think for a second the Premier didn't know what they were doing. So we have to thank the Premier and the UCP for allowing us the citizen-led initiative to pursue our independence legally. And I believe, some people, there's a lot of debate on if she supports the movement or not. I still feel in my heart I think she does. So let's just focus on getting the signatures, and that's where I'm at. But at the same time, let's commend, giving credit where credit's due. And when we're in the process of trying to seek our independence, and we're tabling common sense policies that protect our kids and such, well, I give credit to that, because I'm supportive of that. And right now we need it. We can't wait 5 years, right? Like, it's now. We need these things now. So anyways, with that said, we have the NDP now screaming foul about everything in the world, like they always do. And I actually want to take a challenge, because I'm watching I'm just watching one side bicker more than anything, and the other side defend itself, which, right, the Premier's just putting Nenshi in his place every time. But there was I'll play the clip, and then I'm going to go over the challenge that I presented myself to Janis Irwin. So let me see, I'm going to cue up the clip here. Here it is. All right, so this is the Janis Irwin clip in Ledge, where she's complaining about the NDP presenting private members' bills to the UCP and the UCP not supporting it. So this is what she had to say.
I'll tell you, I've been an MLA for 7 years, and do you know how many times this UCP government has supported one of our motions or bills? 0. You got it. 0. Do you know how many times we've supported their private members' motions and bills? Many, many times, including today. And so I tell you, Albertans are asking us all the time to be collaborative, to work together. They want to see that. And yet we see none of that from this government. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not making any of this up. You can look at Hansard. You can look at their record. Unwilling to collaborate with us.
All right, Janis, you made some points about the NDP tabling private member bills and the UCP not supporting them. So I wanted to go look and see what you were talking about, to see if you had any justification in your claim to be fair. And that's what I wanted to do today. Now, Janis, you are right that there have been members' bills that the NDP has presented to government, to Ledge, which have been rejected by the UCP. But let's review what those bills were. So, what was the one? Bill 206, and this was an accessibility for more money to social services, basically. Now, this bill, when you look at it, first of all, I don't even think you guys completed it, and it's still open-ended. But either which way, this bill is basically no justification. You folks are trying to say that if we put more money into social services, it's going to increase the tax base, and it'll also increase revenue back to the province. But it doesn't work like that, because we're putting money into social services, which is costing more on the taxpayer. So what we need to do is this bill, I understand why the UCP rejected it, because you didn't have a working plan to say, how are we going to make sense, rationale to the bill itself. There was no rationale to the bill itself. And the rationale I would look at, if it was presented to the UCP, again, if it was smart. Okay, and I'm just going to give you an idea here, because look at, I'm all about having a working opposition party that will present some common sense bills that potentially the ruling government will approve or work with and make some changes and amend those changes so that it works for everybody. But it's got to have rationale. Now, the rationale I'm looking for here is, how are we going to make sense of the folks that are not working, that are in social services? How are we going to get them to work so that we can not have them sitting on social services? So my rationale to this would be, why don't you guys create some type of open door reemployment program and basically support the UCP on reducing the international students and temporary foreign workers and newcomers coming to Alberta, so that we can offer this program to get people off social services, because that would make sense. You have to remember, it's the federal government imposing these immigration programs that are taking jobs away from Albertans, which is causing welfare to increase. And yes, inflation is going up, so the cost of living is going up. So your argument to get more money is sound, but you have to have rationale to make it make sense, so that we can get people off the system, not make them dependent of the system. And that's what you guys did not present, and that's why it got rejected. Number 2, Bill 204, the whistleblowers bill. You guys wanted to present. Now, I'll believe it or not, I'm a UCP member, and believe it or not, I will agree with some of this bill. But again, there was no rationale ended to make it make sound, and it was just presented. And the other thing, as I from my understanding and just looking at the bill and looking at the bills you guys all presented, it was just nonsensical. It wasn't something of importance. Yes, whistleblowers are important, but when we're going through a time like this in the last 5 years, you've presented no bills that make sense to help Alberta prosper and to reduce the cost of living. You're just complaining on nonsensical bills. So that was Bill 204. It was a nonsensical bill. What was the other one? MLA Brooks Arcan from Edmonton West, which is NDP. You guys wanted to present the Reconciliation and Implementation Act, basically funding more money for First Nations, for some type of nonprofit organization for reconciliation. And we don't need that, right? We're just taking more money and diverting it for more money for something else that really we don't need. Look, at the reconciliation is on the federal side, and yes, the provincial side participates. And yes, I believe that the province throws enough money at it. Now, right now, there's a lot of questions in terms of this reconciliation fraud that's been going on as well. Not in terms of, is it a fraud itself, but no, in terms of the money that's being flowed into the reconciliation programs across the country, right? We still have graves that are unmarked, that is debatable, because other First Nations went and exhumed or went and excavated that graves from the GPR, which is the ground penetration radar, from the same one that did the 215 in BC. We have 3 other reservations that went and dug, and there was no bodies. But the same people from the GPR company was saying, oh, there's graves there, and no, there was none. So far there's been 0 bodies found. So that there, to continue putting millions and billions of dollars into this program, it needs to halt until we get actual proof that there's been bodies exhumed and then repatriated to where they're supposed to be. And then at that point, yes, we would definitely help those folks and help with the healing process. I have no problem with that. But we're throwing money at something there's no evidence other than word of mouth. And there's 2 sides to this story about the residential schools, right? We're here, I'm not saying there's never been any abuse, but when you're amplifying one side and not talking about the other, you know what I mean? And the other is talking about stories from witnesses people who went to these schools and have a different complete story to tell that the government of Canada amplified in the last 10 years, or actually in the last 5. So now the other bill that you had, Janis, was Bill 203. And this one here was to build data centers and extra battery power data banks that could throw power back to the grid. Now, I agree with some of this bill. Again, this was sort of a sound bill, but the problem is you were trying to replicate something the UCP was already putting forward. So instead of working with the UCP government and saying, hey, maybe we could include the what you guys had as a that you guys wanted to present in this members bill, you could have just went to the UCP and said, hey, look, we were working on this bill right now. Maybe we could amend what you have and include this and sit down and see how this works. That should have been the way to go, because basically you guys were, I don't know, it looks like you guys were copying what the UCP was doing, but trying to twist it to some type of social program control that I think it was 3 levels of government, or it was 3 departments of government would have control of the legislation and the oversight of these centers, which basically is communism. And I think that's why the bill got rejected, because, again, we have to allow companies to thrive. And these data centers, again, which we're going to touch base on just briefly, they're not all AI. A lot of them is for storage banking and data banking. So people say, well, what's that? Well, just on a layman's explanation. So these data centers are basically, you have companies like Netflix, Amazon, Amazon Prime, and all these companies. They're storing server racks in these data centers because they need to store them in a location where it's suitable, and plus heating control. So a lot of people are all scared, saying that this is all AI driven data centers, and it's not. It's actually data centers that are just housing servers from different companies that are co-locating. Right? This is a common practice everywhere across the country, but what's happening is more demand on apps, more demand from users, more bandwidth, data access. So yeah, it takes a toll, and you have to build more servers for the demand from the population. So as that grows, you got to build more servers, and then that requires more space, and that requires more HVAC systems. I mean, it just goes on and on. So the solution was to just set up data banks and problem solves, instead of having them all over sporadically, which is more of a problem on the grid than having a solution which is basically sustained power energy and extra energy generation going back to the grid, and we're able to sustain data banks that's working collectively, right? So in a way, on Bill 203, I will say this, Janis and the NDP, I read the bill. It's actually, some of it was good. So I will give you credit on that bill, but it was presented in a way that it was socialism and communism control. And that's, I think, is why the UCP turned away from this. And I would have turned away from that issue. So again, when you come up with these bills that are, that work sort of hand in hand with the current government and stuff, maybe you should sit down with them rather than screaming to the heavens. What was the other one here? I think I got, the data centers. Okay, so it was Bill 206, 204, the Reconciliation Implementation Act, and Bill 203 for the data centers and data banks. So those were the bills that were presented. And this is what I'm going to say to the NDP. Now, listen, I did work for Jack, okay? And I've always voted conservative, and Jack knew that. But Jack was trying to teach those of us, back when we were in our 20s. He was trying to teach, late 20s, early 30s. He was trying to teach us that, the people matter, and it's not about running a policy that's being lobbied by a corporation. It's more on policies lobbied by groups of individuals from grassroots people, from communities. And when I look at the UCP, a lot of what Jack did is almost the same thing. Okay, maybe different. Maybe we have some conflicting things on terms of social programs, But at the same time, when I look at the dynamics of Alberta, it makes sense that we start focusing on Albertans first because we're the collective. The oil and gas industry, there's so many industries, but the oil and gas industry is primarily our people, right? So when I look at that and I say, okay, well, how do we build on another industry? And right now, data is the biggest thing. So yes, I would love to see Alberta create some type of Silicon Valley type that will generate billions and trillions of dollars for the province as a backbone. And we could lead the way in technology. We can amend the technology to new innovations with the oil and gas sector, with agriculture, right? So then we have three major industries running: farms, oil and gas, and data. And people are scared of it. They think AI, but it's not. So anyways, what I'm getting at is when we're looking for solutions in terms of presenting private members' bills or policy changes within government and legislation, we should be presenting things that are sound, things that matter. So, the NDP, this is what I'm going to say, guys. You guys, right now, the way I look at it, your policies have been about social minorities groups and stuff like that, and then social issues in terms of trying to find more funding for, let's say, welfare recipients or disability, which is rightfully so. But the thing is you've never presented a real bill that makes any sense to help the homeless or anything. So mostly it's just one thing. Like you harp about disability, but where's the homeless? We have 4,000 just alone, okay? So, and this is for the MLAs that are NDP. You should be ashamed of yourselves because you guys helped create this problem with your ideologies. The homelessness rate and addictions rate is caused by policies and bills that were presented by the NDP and Liberals throughout the last 10 years that have caused this problem. And now you can't cry about it. You're not even presenting solutions or any private members' bills to find a solution to these problems. You're leaving it up to everybody else. But you guys created it. And you're still so hyped up with Big Pharma. So, when you say you're working for the people and this and that, no wonder your party's imploding, because now it's all about gender equity and racial equity. Like, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable, demented stupidity that you've resorted to categorizing, labeling, and pot-shotting with identity culture. For what? Like, are we on an Xbox game? Are we new NPCs that we have to create a profile and, you know what I mean? And everybody, like, is this what we're doing? Because that's the reason why the NDP is failing. So, on one hand, Janis, the reason, you were right. You presented bills that the UCP rejected, but I wanted to present to the people why those bills were rejected, because they're just not common sense at all. No rationale. Anyways, next up. So, we got some really great topics for today's show. It's going to be a little longer than the last one. Episode 9 was about, I think it was like 40 minutes or something. And we got quite a bit of views. I want to say thank you. And to the new subscribers on YouTube, thank you so much. And I know some folks are like, how come it's not video? Well, it's radio, right? And I'm working to get to video. So it's just a matter of funds, right? Like, as we build up and make a little bit of money, or, if people want to donate, that's great. But the money is going to help this radio platform. And we have a vision for this. Like, trust me, there's a plan. So far we've been implemented a plan that I follow for this brand. And so far we're on point. There's a couple hiccups, but we're on point. And when we get to where we want to get, that's when people are going to be like, oh my God, I've been doing this for a long time. So you can't just rush into it, right? You have to test the waters and it's investment. And, if you rush into it, there's a chance that you'll fail. And I always said to myself, after 20 years of doing online radio and promotion and marketing and social media and different types of things, you realize, okay, people who are failing, you look at why they're failing. And I've wanted to do this. So it's been a long time in the works, and we're getting there. Anyways, more music right now. So we are going to play Novel Reverb. We played it yesterday. Back to back with Derek Collier. So both are from Alberta. Yeah. So Derek Collier is from Edmonton, and Novel Reverb is from, I believe it was from Calgary. It's great tracks, folks. Check them out on Spotify. They're both on Spotify. So Novel Reverb and Derek Collier, Collier. And we're going to play back-to-back tracks here on Alberta Radio. So here we go.
Cold wind cutting through an Alberta sky. Oil and dust, yeah, that's our life. Sun comes up and we're already gone. Steel toes on and the work boots on. Engines are running, coffee strong. Another day where we carry on. We built this place from the ground up. Never needed no silver cup. They take the cut, they take the save, but we're the ones that make it pay. We've been quiet way too long. Now it's time we prove them wrong. We stand up, we don't break. This is ours, this we take. From the rigs to the fields, yeah, we build it all. Now Alberta stands alone, watch us standing tall. We don't bend and we don't bow. They can hear us clear right now. If they never listen, then they're gonna feel it still. We'll stand on our own, yeah, we always will. Yeah, we always will. Gravel roads in a midnight shift. Hands warm down, but we still don't quit. Farm town roots and a rebel flame. Every mile got a working name. They don't know what it takes out here. Blood and sweat through every year. They write the rules from miles away while we just grind another day. We've been patient, we've been proud, but we ain't staying silent now. We stand up, we don't break. This is ours, this we take. From the rigs to the fields, yeah, we build it all. Now Alberta stands alone, watch us standing tall. We don't bend and we don't bow. They can hear us clear right now. If they never listen, then they're gonna feel it still. We'll stand on our own, yeah, we always will. This land's tough, so are we. Ain't no chains on being free. We gave more than our share. Now we're done getting nowhere. We stand up, we don't break. This is ours, this we take. Every mile, every drop, yeah, we gave it all. Now Alberta stands alone, watch us standing tall. We don't bend and we don't bow. They can hear us clear right now. If they never listen, then they're gonna feel it still. We'll stand on our own, yeah, we always will. Yeah, we always will.
I once did know a fool, a most devoted fool, who fed a dragon every morning and called it a ritual. That fool was me. And brother, I know that fool is you. Yes, 6. Yeah. 6 in the morning. Yeah. 6 in the morning, before my feet hit the floor, before the coffee, before the kids, before I open the door. Hand reached out like a reflex, like a long lost friend. Lit up the first one, told myself it'd never end. Yeah, 20 years deep and I never missed a day. Packed in the half before noon on a good day. Lighter in the left pocket, pack in the right. Woke up a smoker, went to bed every night. Smell on my jacket, smell on my hands, smell on my car and my couch and my plants. Told myself it's fine, told myself it's cool, told myself a lie every day like a fool. But the cigarette said, baby, you need me. I'm the only thing that makes the morning feel easy. I'm the pause in the chaos, I'm the edge taking off. I'm the first thing you reach for when the world gets too tough. And the addict in the back said, he's right, you know. You tried to quit in 09 and that was a whole show. Remember day 3, remember how you shook. Just light one up, homie, just one more look.
One more pack, just one more pack.
I quit on Monday, I quit when I'm back.
One more pack, just one more pack.
I swear to God this time, and I mean that, I did not mean that. Then one morning something shifted in the air. Walked past the mirror and I stopped and I stared. Not in my face but the color underneath. The way I was breathing, the way I couldn't breathe. Ran up a staircase, 12 steps, that's it. 12 steps and my lungs do a full-on fit. Stood there wheezing hand against the wall. 43 years old and I felt 100 and tall. My kid looked up at me and didn't say a word, but I saw it in his eyes and man it hurt. He didn't ask me why I smelled like smoke. He just took my hand and that's when something broke. What light through yonder window breaks? It is the truth and it finally wakes. The man who fed the dragon every single day watched his own son show him there was another way.
One more pack, just one more pack.
The cigarette is laughing and the addict's got your back. Hey.
One more pack,
Yeah.
just one more pack.
But somewhere in the mirror there's a better man than that. Hey. Day 1 was easy, day 2 was a lie. Day 3, I reorganized my pantry 4 times. Day 4, I ate everything that wasn't nailed down. Day 5, I sat in my car in the parking lot downtown. Just sat there, hand shaking, jaw tight. The cigarette whispered, this is stupid, just like the addict said. Look, you've already lasted 5 days. What's one gonna do? Just take the edge off the haze. You deserve it, you've been working so damn hard. Just one in the driveway, just one in the yard. I said, nah, that's it, that's the whole speech. Just nah, one syllable, 1 inch out of reach. Didn't have a monologue, didn't have a plan, just nah. And I drove home and I was still that man. Week 2, I started tasting things again. Coffee tasted like coffee, not like coffee and sin. Week 3, I woke up and forgot to want one. Stood there, confused in the kitchen like, done? Month 2, I ran those 12 steps and I didn't stop. Made it to the top, didn't drop. Stood there, stupid, grinning like an idiot at the sky. 43 years old, feeling 25. The cigarettes don't knock, sometimes don't get it twisted. Shows up at a bar, shows up when I'm pissed. Shows up when the stress hits the ceiling and the walls close. But I know his game now and I know how it goes. He ain't my friend, he was never my friend. He was a lease I kept renewing on the place I should've left. All the world's a stage, and all the smokers merely players. And in one act thou art the dragon's fool, and in the next, the slayer. The dragon does not love thee, he only loves the feed. And every morning that thou lights the flame, thou waters not a flower, but a weed.
One more pack, just one more pack.
That's what it tells you every time you look back. But you already know,
You already know,
the best version of you is the one that lets go. You already know,
already know.
the best version of you is waiting down that road. Just say now, one syllable, that's all, just now.
Yeah, that's Derek Collier. So, man, I'm gonna be. You know what's really cool is I'm gonna be working with Derek soon. You know, once we get past gathering all our signatures and that, we're gonna set some time up. I've been talking to him, just haven't had a chance to go out to his place so we could start working on the studio because Jay's been busy. But we talked about it, and what I really like is the fact that we're getting more Alberta artists sending music in for the podcast, and we're featuring it. And once we get the online streams set up properly again, right now we just have an issue with GoDaddy because something happened with our DNS issue on a change that I made, and you know, Jay screwed the config file up. Don't know how I did it, but it's getting corrected, so we're just waiting for that. But yeah, no, we're going to be putting the stream back up, and when we do, we're going to be focusing on making sure that we have constant rotation, tune of the day presentation, stuff like that that a normal radio station would do, right? So that's the plan, like we're going to grow it, and Alberta needs this. Like, we have mainstream radio doing whatever, but the thing is the internet is a great thing, and we get a lot of listeners different ways, and especially recently our podcast has been increasing on the listener base, so I thank folks for that. I really truly do, and we're just going to keep growing together. So again, if you guys want to send me stuff, you guys can. So what's the next topic? Oh yes, so Pamela Wallin, remember her from CTV? I think she did 60 Minutes or something, or W5 once. I don't remember. I know she did CTV. So she's speaking at a committee for the government of Canada, criticizing someone who's basically exposing medical serial killers, and rightfully so. It's not in a sense of saying it's serial killers, but it is a type of serial killing when you're killing more people, multiple people for the same goal at the end of the day, but you're just using legal terminologies to protect them. Now, the MAiD program in Canada it's completely nonsensical. This year, it'll have a total of 125,000 deaths, and it's just what are we doing? The Canadian government has taken a role of euthanizing its own citizens and replacing it with foreigners, and that's a simple fact. So I agree with this man. Now, I took the clip. I want everybody to hear this clip. It's about 3.5 minutes, and it just blows my mind that these people who I actually respected Pamela at one point, because I thought that some of the news content she did deliver in the past was pretty good. But to sit there and defend the killing of Canadians and use the nonsensical, made up, systematic hyperbole, right? Here we go.
That you are with the Department of Environment and Geography, and you also work in the field of biodiversity. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you have any formal legal training or training in policing or in constitutional law?
No, I don't.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because you've authored and published a paper called Canada's Medical Assistance in Dying System Can Enable Healthcare Serial Killing. That is a very serious allegation to accuse medical professionals of being serial killers. What was that professional opinion based on when your area is neither medicine nor law?
Several things. So one thing I am is a researcher. What I can do is research. So when we look at the definition of serial killing that law enforcement services put out, it's quite simple. It's usually something along the lines of killing 2 to 3 people in sequence on separate occasions or separate events. That's serial killing.
And you think that is applicable in the medical profession?
When we created, so the difference between let's say criminal serial killing and MAiD is that we've created a carve out in the criminal code for medical professionals who engage in discrete
No, there are standards and eligibility requirements for the provision of MAiD. There's no such situation for serial killers. I mean, let's be realistic here.
So what you're speaking about there is basically a definition in law. Okay, so criminal serial killing is killing outside the law.
Right, and this is not outside the law, which is the distinction I'm trying to make clear here for people.
You are creating a legal form of serial killing in MAiD because you're creating an opportunity.
MAiD is actually legal, right? You understand that according to the Supreme Court?
I'm saying you're creating a legal form of serial killing. What I'm not saying right now in MAiD is serial murder, which would be illegal. So in serial killing, MAiD is still a form of serial killing. So if you kill 1, 2 to 3 or more patients sequentially within the law, you are still committing serial killing. within a legal parameter.
So if you misdiagnose a person, or if the cancer moves more quickly, or if the mental illness can't be diagnosed, you're saying any medical professional could be actually accused of this. That's your position.
That's not my position.
Well, MAiD is actually legal in Canada. It was declared legal by the Supreme Court and Parliament.
If you take the basic definition that law enforcement uses for serial killing, before you add whether it's criminal or not, either whether it's within the law or not, you're talking about the difference between a culpable and a non-culpable homicide. MAiD legally is a non-culpable homicide. So a series of MAiD deaths that are within the law are a series of non-culpable homicides.
Thank you, Dr. Lyon and Senator Wallin. Senator Wells for 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to continue what my colleague has just been talking about. It's both of our witnesses today have made some pretty serious accusations of doctors being murderers. This is, if this is so extreme, the committee needs to see proof before those accusations can be part of the public record. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Now, folks, what do you think of that? Do you believe that the man, I forget his name, the individual who did the research on this and wrote the paper about non-culpable serial killing in the medical community via MAiD and probably via COVID and other things, he's right. Now, the thing is MAiD has opened up the door for physicians and doctors and such medical professionals who are, don't think for a second there's medical professionals that are in there to kill people. I mean, look at how many nurses have we've arrested over the years, doctors and stuff. So it's fair to say that the possibility is potentially there. Now, there is a doctor in BC that has over 1,000 deaths under her belt. Now, what would you say that? Right? People who are applying for MAiD being approved for simply having a hard time in life because the government of Canada refuses to help them, or provincial or municipal, whatever the case may be. They've basically given up on the individual. And that's what's happening in Canada. Our government is giving up on our own people, and they've created this outlet where you can apply to just basically your ticket out, which I don't agree with, because on the flip side of this, the government of Canada empowers minority groups to go out there on anti-suicide programs, right? And they campaign on it, and they have a hotline about it and all this other stuff. But do you see the oxymoron? And that's exactly what's happening in Canada, justifying one or the other, but it's an oxymoron in itself. It's a complete nonsensical piece of legislation and law right now. The thing is MAiD needs to be refined. I agree with assisted death programs if it's end of life within a 1-year term thing. So in Alberta here, we have a new bill that was passed where that's where it is. We make sense of it, right? We put common sense to it, because we're not going to say, do we want to actually see people suffer? Do we, that's not right either. We have to be somewhat compassionate and empathetic towards the families that are going through all these things, different diseases and cancers and stuff. But I don't agree that if you have PTSD or depression and that's your way out, that's where I draw the line there. No. So if it's an end of life term thing where you are going to, that's it, that's your outcome and it, well then if you want to go out sooner, then that should be your choice to do that. And that's where the government of Alberta has implemented legislation that makes sense of that. So again, what bothers me is people like Pamela Wallin trying to downplay it and, it's it, you know what I mean? Like, who is she? She's a reporter asking these questions. That's, if I would have been up there and I was the guy that wrote the paper or arguing the fact, I would have looked at her and said, well, aren't you a reporter? So what's your credentials, right? Who are you asking me these questions? Shouldn't be somebody within constitutional law that knows constitutional law in and out to ask me those questions to see if there's any sense to this. And at the end of the day, they shut him down and shut the whole thing down because of the fact that he said non-culpable and culpable deaths. And that's within the terms of law, and that is what the police are basing the charges when they usually charge a serial killer or not, right? So right now we have legislation on MAiD that protects medical serial killers. Because it is serial killing when you're killing people with mental health. That is just simple depression and PTSD and whatever. We should be helping those folks. We have programs and services already set up for that. Why isn't that being offered and prioritized to the individual? So, was it we just give up on everybody? I don't believe in that. But when you look at the death rate, 125,000 people this year, folks, from MAiDs, right? Pretty sad. Anyways, so earlier on for the music lineup, we've played Joey Pringle, Métis artist out of Calgary, Alberta. Ain't My First Rodeo. It's tune of the day, by the way, for today. And Novel Reverb, with Alberta Proud, Derek Collier, Just One More Pack, and we're going to play some of my music soon. But we're still going to talk about some topics here. David Eby, Under Fire. Oh yeah, I'm going to play this clip because this is hilarious. It's hilarious. BC has lost control of the House. Listen to this.
That statement from them on Sunday to launch, what was it, collective resistance? Did that threat cause you to back off? They were talking about what? Blocking roads and railways and buildings?
There is a very real threat to our province and continued conflict with First Nations. That's why our government is committed to finding, if at all possible, collaborative paths forward. We want to move past the court battles, past the blockades, past those issues. And that was what the Declaration Act was all about. We hear from the Conservatives that they are fully comfortable with that division. They are comfortable with those fights. They want to repeal the Declaration Act. They want to pick that fight with First Nations. It is a very different view of the path to prosperity and certainty in this province. For our part, we believe the path forward is together. And today's decision reflects that. I accept the responsibility that we didn't get here immediately. But I believe very, very firmly that if we want this province to be successful, if we want to be prosperous in these challenging times, that we have to do it in partnership with First Nations. And that means wherever possible, staying out of court, reaching solutions outside of court, and sometimes taking the moment to take a step back and work together. And that's what we're doing today. Thank you, everyone.
Now, this is all stemming to First Nations and UNDRIP, where the BC legislation created legislation to grandfather in UNDRIP, which has been taking land away from honest British Columbians who have worked hard, bought their land. It's private property, right? Now, BC Conservatives are rightfully so that are opposed to this, and I agree, because you're opening up control to a set of hands that are dictating now to everybody. I agree that we should have a partnership with First Nations, but how you're doing it right now is completely absurd. And this legislation needs to be repealed completely, so that, you know, if you're a hardworking British Columbian, that, you know, you worked all your life, you bought property, you go to retire, and all of a sudden you get a notice in stating that you don't own your land and you don't own your house anymore. Imagine that, right? Because that's what's happening. So these are Canadians adhering to federal policies, federal rules, and provincial rules and municipal rules. And you have the province of Alberta under Premier Eby and the NDP, again the NDP, doing stupid things like this. So I'm on the side of Dallas Brody. I'm on the side of the Conservatives. I'm on the side of Francis Whittleson. I mean, this is unbelievably insane what's happening in British Columbia right now. And it's actually more devastating if you understand what's really going on within the principles of process. So EB's lost control of the House right now. So it's going to be interesting what happens in the next little bit. But First Nations has threatened to put up blockades for railroads and ports. And I'm going to say this, I don't think they have enough people to do it. And if they do, they're going to get kids from the universities, rile them up, right? And potentially call in the reinforcements from Ontario, because I know this much. You know, I stood at the last train blockade in Tyendinaga, and it was for rightfully so just cause. Now, a lot of people debate on this. They say, oh, that was, but listen, there was a right cause. I mean, look at, women were being dragged out at 3 o'clock in the morning out of their homes. You know what I mean? And over land rights, which was rightfully their land. Okay, so there was a big argument about this, and it was the excessive use of force. So we had to do something about it so we could get the government to stop it. And the government did stop it. Okay, so there was an agreement made after. Everybody, I get it. But when Francis and who was it? Dallas Brody and 1BC were over at the university. This is a couple weeks ago or about a month ago. And it was one of the 1BC folks got assaulted by Logan Stotts, who I've known Logan Stotts for quite a while. I'm not friends with him or anything, but I know him, and I've met him more than once, because I used to hang out at his friend's cannabis lounge, and I know all the cannabis shops on Thai, and I mean, I was in the industry. I grew up on res too, right? Like, I spent time growing up on reserve up north, and so I've been part of the whole culture and stuff, but I that's where I've known Logan from, and he's a Juno Award-winning artist. I respect him for his music and stuff, but the thing is to see him go out there as an activist and start assaulting people when he knows damn well that everybody's right. We're just asking for proof. Now this whole thing has turned into a debacle. So I'm on the side about truth, right? And regardless of the fact, if my kids were buried, or if I knew family members were apparently buried somewhere and we didn't have definite proof, I'd want exhumation done so I can get my family out and put them in a grave. That's our family plot, right? That's just right. But then now we're going to the point where the BC government's using UNDRIP and taking land away from people, and people will, First Nation people say, well, see, how does it feel? Well, look at, man, this is like, you guys are crying about stuff that happened 200 years ago, 100 years ago, right? And don't forget, the tribes were fighting the tribes and depended on the crown to help them conquer other tribes. How about we talk about that truth as why the land was given part of the treaties? Nobody talks about that. I'm Métis, and I'm, I'm going to say this. My family on my dad's side are French from Basque, and we came to this country on the land in the East Coast in 1496 with the first 5 families of Basque. There's written history of our family and the Battle of Baie des Chaleurs. I mean, we're historically, the Lausby family is written in history, in Canadian history, in the fight of the Baie des Chaleurs. But before that, even, took our lands away from us after we had permission from the tribes to set up our own farms and work with them, and they taught us tradition. We taught them our tradition. That's how. And we never had war. We were peaceful for 149 years. We were never called colonists. We were never called invaders. Right? But yet, the government of Canada and the Crown will twist everything and brainwash the whole population into believing something that's not even true, which they're responsible for. After they eradicated the East Coast tribes and kicked out New France and destroyed Acadia and expelled everybody from Acadia, which created Louisiana states, Cajun states. And our families migrated right across the northwest passage of Canada. And when you know the history, and you know that the Crown has never stopped its reign of terror on the population, that's how deep our history goes. That's the history I'm taught to teach my kids about really what the Crown has done to the people. The history of that. The parliamentary system is an establishment created on ceremonial principles from the 1500s, 1499, right? That's been inherited by all the Commonwealth countries. And look at all the Commonwealth countries. What are they doing right now? The demand of the king. Since the new king has been coronated, look at the direction of all the countries. Just saying. tell me that who's not in charge. So the people need to rise up, and that's what Alberta's doing, that's what Quebec's doing, that's what Saskatchewan's doing, potentially Newfoundland, and northern end of BC. Yukon is starting to talk about it. So when you have Liberals and NDPers out there saying, we're pro-Canada, pro-Canada, your country's falling apart, nobody's unified. And that's your fault. Nobody else's fault. You guys woke up one morning and started accusing all of us of stuff that was just, you made up, right? Picking on them, just because somebody got called a name. Oh my God, it's racism because you called me a name. But you guys can call everybody else names. You see the lunacies of this? Attack and play the victim. But that whole thing that whole psychological bullshit that you guys laid on us over the last little while, everybody's fed up of it. And now finally people are waking up, and more are waking up to it and saying, yeah, it's enough. We're tired of it. So anyways, it's unbelievable, the direction of how, you look at NDP governments and left-wing governments and how their policies have affected the country or a province or a city even. And then they turn around later on and try to use their own broken policies, which we're trying to correct and say and use them against us. You know what I mean? When it's unbelievably crazy. So we're going to play some music, and then we're going to finish off the show with the last two topics of the show. And I really appreciate everybody listening. So I just want to say that I've been working with some folks the last few months because I've been producing music all my life, and I own a record label that has about 400 different tracks. And they were part of the build of the trance community with Armin van Buren and everybody. And a lot of my artists now work with Tiesto and Armin and the big guys with Tomorrowland and stuff. And it makes me happy to see how they progressed. So I've got permission to redo all the old tracks because I had signed, as a label, yes, they were under our label, but as an artist, I also signed contracts and commitments to do remixes, which I never finished. So the people who I own the label with some folks, and my partner said, well, Jay, you should commit to those, because right now we could rehash and revitalize the label's identity in the next couple years if we wanted to, and open up, the next phase of Alberta Radio, which will be offering monetization to our artists via our own private platform. So we figured out how to do some things, and so I started saying, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna finish up my tracks. So we're gonna play back to back. One's an original track that I just finished, and the other one I will play. Don't be stupid. When you go to queue up stuff. Okay. There we go. I got them both queued up. Okay. So the first track I'm playing it's a rename. So I was going to call it Castles in the Sky because the girl I'm working with is a Christian singer that's trying to make a name for herself. She's out of Texas, and she's with the Church of Jesus Christ. So her name is Katrina Blaze. That's her stage name. And she came to me and she's like, hey, Jay, I heard you write some stuff. So I worked with her and I built this track. So we instead of calling it Castles in the Sky, we renamed it to Your Hands in Mine. And then the track right after this is a track that I was supposed to finish and remix, which I did. And it's from Thomas De Kalita featuring Amira Ali out of Dubai. And it's called Lost Yourself. So here we go on Alberta Radio, back to back Janis LaFace tracks. Just kidding. Here we go.
Empty streets and a midnight park, but your voice was so damn loud. You said, trust me, just close your eyes. Every scar is a secret key the pavement under my feet start fading out beneath me. Oh, we building castles in the sky, stone by stone on borrowed time. If it all falls down tonight, will you still be by my side? Are we chasing something we can't find, or learning how to say goodbye? If it breaks, if it burns, that's fine. I just want your hand in mine. Your hand in mine. Clouds wrap round our heads. If this is just a dream, don't wake me up. Don't wake me up. Are we building castles in the sky? Stone by stone on borrowed time. If it all falls down tonight, will you still be by my side? Are we chasing something we can't find, or learning how to say goodbye? If it breaks, if it burns, that's fine. I just want your hand in mine.
You gave fire, so now it burns. You took all the steps and paid. Put your eyes back every night, but they didn't get you through. If I fall for another chance, maybe we're not your words, but their silence. Your tears long for everything you never had.
Oh yeah. I hope you guys enjoy this track. It's like 15 years in the making. And it took a lot of mental stress because trance, it's one of the hardest musics to produce. One of the hardest things to produce. So Thomas is listening to the show right now, and he's out in Norway, in Stavanger. He produced the original track of this, and he's like, Jay, you gotta remix it. Well, my friend, this is the kicker, and I hope you enjoy, and I hope the rest of you enjoy. This is 15 years of work, man.
And I feel like I'm lost in myself, and I feel like I'm lost in myself, and I feel like I'm lost in myself.
Alberta Records 2009 release. Alright, so to finish off the show, we're going to talk about some nonsense. Here we go. Alright, so mainstream media has been reporting that content creators Derek Smith, Berta Proud Dad, myself, Zoltan, and others are all AI generated content. We're all fake. So my voice is fake. Everything. Oh man, because they're on this blitz about disinformation and they're trying to subvert Canadians, right? It's just hilarious. It's just hilarious. So I wanted to mention that. What was the other thing to mention to finish off here? Hold on. The Forever Canadian and NDP are screaming foul because the UCP rejected. I guess they're rejecting to have a discussion about it. Anyways, it's rightfully so. When you have a petition that had 50,000 plus signatures rejected, that's number one for me. Number two, they had to get almost 500,000 signatures. It was pretty close. It was 477,000. I can't remember what it was. Anyways, they got the number or more. So I don't believe that Elections Alberta contacted all those people. So who's to say more are fraudulent? Because they didn't have to verify signatures with ID. So to sit there and cry about it, I think it's valid for the UCP to reject the petition. Just because of the rejected signatures already. Next up, here's one. Here's about the gas stations. So in Edmonton, Sukhwinder Kandola, who owns the Circle K, had his, thankfully Circle K is fixing the issue, but his gasoline was contaminated with a lot of water at 50% dilution. Now he's saying that he didn't know anything about this. It could have been the delivery of what was sent over. And rightfully, he could be right, but he's calling out now racism and all this stuff. Well, okay, so in a sense, he's right about the racism. You know, he shouldn't, if he's rightfully in the right, okay, which right now he is taking measures with his insurance company to, help people who were affected by this. But at the same time, if he is correct that he's not in the wrong, he's right. But on the flip side right now, there's a lot of discontent with Canadians. And that's because, when you see stores like Circle K and gas stations and fast food chains being taken over by foreigners who are not from Canada, prioritizing temporary foreign workers at the same time, you start to say, well, okay, what's wrong with this picture? Because Canadians are the ones footing the bill for everything. So shouldn't it be Canadians first who own these franchises? And I'm just saying, because that's what it was before, as part of the Canadian collective. Is, when I was a kid, I could go and get out any job I wanted when I was a teenager. Pump gas, work at a restaurant, work at the carnival, do paper, do paper routes, flip burgers, whatever, right? There was so many things that we could do, and kids worked. Us kids worked. I mean, and if I didn't do that, I was, Manpower had a thing where you could go daily, and they had odd jobs where, random people needed things done around the yard. So, I mean, me and my cousin took advantage of that every weekend. We would dig pits for people, man. You know what I'm saying? So that whole dynamic has changed, because now wherever you look, all these jobs that we once had for our kids are now being taken over by foreigners. And you look at the old, some of us Canadians were accustomed of growing up to, like, remember the corner store? Hey, guys, remember the corner store? Confectionery stores in our communities where it was run by mom and pops. We can get 1 cent, 2 cent candies. Remember that? We'd have like an arcade booth, a couple little video games. That's all gone. That was part of being Canadian. And what's that? What has that been replaced by? Circle K, all these foreign-owned confectionery stores. And it's nothing against foreigners who are coming in doing this, because the federal government's allowing it. So in this sense, you look at it and they're saying, hey, you know what, we can go and make a living, and they're contributing to the collective, yeah, but at the same time, they're not realizing that what's happening is damaging our collective and our culture. So I have friends who are from India that agree with me that there's way too many of their people in our country. And that actually, I'm like, okay, I'm not wrong, right? And we're not wrong. But what they don't like is insulting slurs at them. They don't like that. And I get it. I get it. So I agree there. So there has to be a level of discussion and debate where we're not calling each other's names and culture or insulting each other's culture. But I'm just happy that, folks that I know from India are saying, yeah, they're admitting that this is, and I have friends that are leaving, so, and it's all because of, again, municipal property taxes going up, but that's a whole other issue. So right now, Sukhwinder Kandola, I don't think he's at fault. I'm going to say that. I think he's doing the right thing and being responsible right now by making sure any vehicle that's damaged from the water that's been contaminated in the gasoline, he's taking care of that. He's doing his due diligence, and it's right away. There's no fight about it, nothing. So I really think that's awesome. What I suspect happened is potentially that the tanker that went and filled his reserve was the culprit. That's because that's a lot of water at 50% in a tank in the ground. You have to understand, like, these are huge vats, and that's a lot of gasoline. So when one of these tankers you see, like from Tud Hope or whoever is bringing gas to these stores, usually it's a full tanker or a fill up, which is a top up tanker. So when you look at the size of them, you're like, yeah, that's a lot of gas, right? So that's filling up a tank itself. And then they go back and refuel. So one of these tankers, he had just refueled I guess they had a refill done on their underground tanks. I believe that it was the delivery. I think somebody maybe stole the gas potentially and filled up the tank with water. Nobody knew about this and just it went out. Or, I mean, I don't want to say that maybe somebody left the lids open on the top of the tanker, the breather lids, and water got in. I don't believe that either. So it had to have been filled with water, no matter what, to fill up the reserve in the ground. So I don't blame Sukhwinder, and actually I'm going to say this. Sukhwinder's taken a lot of hate from this, and I agree. People are upset, and I see both sides. But I just want to give people an understanding that look at, Sukhwinder and all these folks who took the gas are all victims in this. That's how I look at it. I actually suspect that he got shammed out of this deal, and he's taken the brunt end of it. So he's doing his due diligence to make sure that anyone affected that's had water in their gas and any damage is being covered, and he's doing it right away. So you can call Circle K, I think it's Circle K's customer service line, and if you had a problem or whatever, it'll get resolved immediately. So I'll give him credit for that, and I hope this works out for him. Now the last thing is, when I say why aren't Canadians owning franchises in Canada and or natural resource sectors, that's the big question. So it's not to be sounding like we're bigot or anything like that, but at the end of the day, I know so many folks in this country, okay, we're all immigrants. All our families are immigrants. But when you have a dilution of the population in less than a decade, and it's taken over all our industries, there's a problem. That's what I'm talking about. So I believe that, as we move forward with an independent Alberta, we can nip this right away. I think that we should put programs in place to offer Albertans the ability to become new entrepreneurs and own franchises, help a co-partnered investment with the provincial base or our new nation with our own people to open up franchises or become partners in key natural resource sector decisions and companies and stuff like that, right? So that's always been my thing, because I look all over the country. I mean, you go in Ontario and the forestry sector is owned by different countries. Mines out there are owned by different countries. It blows my mind, and you say to yourself, well, if Canada is Canada, why doesn't Canada own its own natural resources? It's right. Anyways, so to finish off the show, folks, I'm gonna play this track. It's in memory of an old friend who used to work with us with our label, Ruben. So when we started our record label back in 2006-07, it was Omerta Records Canada. I was working with Thomas DeCalita and Ruben Nyborg, and Ruben was working with some mainstream artists, and we ended up working with BPM TV out of Toronto. So Much Music at the time was just, they turned their backs on independent musicians in a sense for certain stuff, but BPM TV was leading the way. And they had a great charting system. So we worked together with Tommy Fredvang out of the Netherlands, and out of Norway, and produced a great remix track. And I'll just say this, BPM TV, I sent it in, and David's like, listen, we looked at the artists that you submitted, we looked at the music and the bio, and he's like, you guys got great stuff. He's like, so we're going to pay for a video. We're going to chart it, and we'll see how it goes. So they did that. BPM TV committed to their promise, and they produced a video for everybody, and we worked together. And that video and that song charted for 6.5 weeks. Number one, beating out Tiesto, Deadmau5, everybody for 6.5 weeks in the summer of 2007. So we were like, yeah, man, So that's when I started getting heavily involved in the Toronto dance music club scene and an international scene at the time, doing DJing and presenting my artists and stuff. So Ruben, he passed away, and we lost a soul on our team. So what I decided to do was, I had always told him I'm going to remix the track, but I'll do it when I'm ready. And I've been putting a lot of focus on my work in the last few months, so I've been pumping out some really sick tracks. So this one is Wake Up Call, that did chart before, #1 in Canada, charted in Europe as well. And Tommy Fred Vang is a well-known musician in Europe. He started with us, right? So here we go, Wake Up Call, Ruben Nyborg, Tommy Fred Vang, and this is the JZL remix, which is mine.
There's a
Yeah, Ruben, man, we miss you, buddy. So that's the end of the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube to help us build our setup. Our setup. I'm actually trying to focus to build our YouTube page. And you can subscribe to our Facebook. Yeah, man, we're growing. I can say that. Today, I haven't logged on my Facebook yet because I'm just gonna wait till this afternoon some point to go on. And the reason being is just because we've been under a 1-year suspension where it's ridiculous. I'm going to tell you. So the other day, I'm watching this guy comment some pretty hateful stuff to my wife, right? And he's using the R word. Now, the reason why we got hit with a suspension for a year was because a year ago, people were complaining about the election and all this other stuff, and they were using the R word. There was a bunch of us using it. And all I did was I didn't use it at all except for once. And I should have never used it. Yes, I know. But I did. And I posted it, and I went to a group, and somebody reported it. And the next thing you know, boom, I got hit. And my main personal account got permanently suspended. But we didn't lose the page because we had other admins, right? So I was like, oh, okay, we didn't lose the page. So I didn't care about my thing, my own profile. But I thought that it was just a 60-day thing, whatever. And so for this whole time, we've had this mark on every time you log into our page, there's a warning. And it's been like that for a year. And I was like trying to figure out why. Like, we're not doing anything, like we're actually been good. And so one day I logged in, and my wife logged into her account, and she's like, yeah, babe, because she was complaining about something on her other page. And I looked at the infraction, and I'm like, oh my God. And that's when I realized we've been under this 1-year suspension. So I'm going to wait, and I'm going to wait probably till later today to log in so I can hopefully see a thing come up on Facebook and say, congratulations, you're out of Facebook jail. Oh, God, man, I tell you, it's hilarious. Anyways, I just want to say thank you for everybody. So make sure to subscribe to both our Facebook page and YouTube and follow us along. And if you have any suggestions or anything like that, contact us on our Facebook page right now, because my email, right now we're having an issue with GoDaddy. So once we have that resolved, because I made a mistake on the DNS forwarding, because, Jays likes to code stupid things. Anyways, I made a mistake, and I broke something, so GoDaddy's fixing it for me. Right? Anyways, much love, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoy. Have a great evening. We'll see you guys later.
Broadcasting around the world.
You are listening to the Great Alberta Radio Show.